Kodak owned the world's memory, then collapsed. Before the fall, the Rochester campus was a self-sustaining city of 60,000, fueled by golden pensions and chemical perfection. Every chemical reaction was a ritual. They obsessed over silver halide crystals, ensuring every image developed was flawless. Their industrial mastery. Their business model was brilliant and ruthless. They sold cameras for nearly zero profit, knowing the real money was in the film cartridges you had to buy. This was the razor blade strategy in action. The hardware was cheap, the consumable was expensive, and it locked the consumer into a lifetime of Kodak products. But Kodak sold more than just plastic and chemicals. They sold a feeling. They captured the Kodak moment, selling nostalgia and the illusion of permanence. In a disposable world, they offered permanence. A physical print became an heirloom, a frozen slice of time that no digital file could ever truly replicate. By the turn of the millennium, this empire was unshakable. They controlled the market share with an iron grip, crushing competition with sheer volume and brand loyalty. The architecture of their success was monumental. Skyscrapers rose in Rochester, housing laboratories that processed millions of photographs every single day. Turning the city into a factory of dreams, employees lived and breathed the corporate culture. From the scientists in the labs to the salesmen on the street, everyone was connected by the pursuit of photographic perfection. The financial engine roared like a beast. Billions in revenue flowed from film sales, funding lavish expansions and ensuring the golden era of analog photography would never end. In 1975, deep inside a Kodak research lab, one engineer built a machine that would eventually destroy his own company. His name was Steve Sasson, and he had no idea what he was about to unleash. Sasson didn't have a budget. He scrounged parts from a shelf, a used Motorola sensor, a digital cassette recorder, a lens from a Super 8 camera. The result weighed 8 pounds. It looked like a toaster bolted to a tape deck. We upload videos like this every day. Subscribe so you don't miss out. Television. Sasson pointed his crude device at a lab assistant. He pressed the button. The camera captured a black and white image. But it didn't print. It didn't develop. Converted light into numbers. The world's first digital photograph. 100 pixels wide. The image didn't appear instantly. It took 23 seconds to write to the cassette, then another 23 seconds to display on a television. In that silence, the room held its breath. No one had ever seen a photograph without film. Sasson proudly showed his invention to Kodak's management. They asked one question: what is it good for? He explained, digital photography. No film, no chemicals, no prints. The room went quiet. Then a manager smiled. That's cute, but don't tell anyone about it. Kodak did file a patent. In 1977, they secured U.S. patent number 4131919. It covered the entire concept of digital photography. The technology was locked away, a secret weapon, but Kodak never planned to use it. Why would Kodak bury such a breakthrough? Because film was a gold mine. Every camera sold meant years of film purchases. The profit margins were enormous. Kodak's executives believed digital would never match the quality of silver halide crystals. They were wrong. Kodak's business model was simple: sell cameras at a loss, make billions on film. In 1976, Kodak controlled 90% of film sales in the United States. Every roll was pure profit. Digital threatened that entire empire. In 1981, Kodak's own internal report predicted digital photography would replace film by 2010. The report was accurate. It was also ignored. Executives shelved it. They chose to protect the present instead of building the future. Instead of embracing digital, Kodak doubled down on film. In 1996, they launched Advantix, a hybrid system that scanned film and stored it digitally. It was the worst of both worlds. Consumers ignored it. Kodak lost billions. Kodak poured billions into perfecting silver halide crystals. They made film sharper, finer, more beautiful. But the world didn't want better film. They wanted no film. Kodak was optimizing a dying technology while the digital wave crashed ashore. Kodak's leadership chose financial engineering over innovation. They used film profits to buy back stock and pay dividends. Shareholders were happy, but the company was hollowing itself out. When digital arrived, Kodak had no cash to pivot. For 2 decades, Kodak's digital patents sat in a vault. It was never used, never licensed, never developed. By the time Kodak finally embraced digital, rivals like Canon and Sony had already taken the lead. The secret weapon had rusted. In 1981, Kodak's own internal report predicted digital photography would destroy film by 2010. Executives saw it as a threat, not an opportunity. The data showed the future was electronic. Management chose to ignore the warning signs. They treated the innovation as a hostile takeover of their business model. Instead of embracing the shift, they doubled down on film. The 1981 report sat gathering dust in a file cabinet. It was a prophecy they refused to believe. Then came the disastrous year of 1996. Kodak launched Advantix, a hybrid film format nobody actually wanted. It was a desperate attempt to stay relevant in a digital world. By the early 2000s, the digital revolution was no longer a rumor. Competitors like Canon and Sony aggressively captured the low-end market segment. Kodak watched helplessly as their traditional film dominance began to crumble under the pressure of cheaper, efficient digital sensors. Simultaneously, the smartphone middle ground was being wiped out entirely. Mobile devices combined cameras with communication, making standalone cameras obsolete. Kodak failed to realize that the camera was becoming a utility, not a hobbyist tool. Desperate for cash flow, Kodak pivoted toward a controversial new strategy. They stopped fighting the future and started monetizing the past through aggressive patent litigation. These lawsuits became a legitimate revenue stream, generating millions while they slowly faded away. In January 2012, the company that taught the world to photograph itself filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. It was a crushing blow to a legacy that had spanned over a century of innovation. The company that once dominated photography now lacked the capital to survive. In a massive fire sale, Kodak auctioned off 1,100 digital imaging patents to a consortium of tech giants. The buyers included Apple, Google, and Facebook, acquiring the future of photography for a fraction of its worth. The final price tag for this trove of intellectual property was just $525 million. It was a mere fraction of what Kodak had been worth decades earlier. The sale marked the end of an era for the Eastman Kodak Company. The bitter irony was that Kodak had actually invented the digital welcome. Before we begin, hit subscribe so you don't miss our daily updates. Tomorrow's video will reveal this secret. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Shushing face.